Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Howdy, 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 and welcome to the SRF Weekend Warriors presented by RaceVoice. We are here at Suzuka, the Eastern layout for a fantastic race again, as always, for the SRF Weekend Warriors series. I am Austin. I'm joined by Sebastian Boscher Williams, and in the production booth we had Jonathan Grabowski, and you're here live watching Apex Racing TV. Sebastian, it's Suzuka, but only the fun part, the S's.
Well, that's a controversial opinion already, Austin. We're less than a minute into the broadcast, but oh yeah, we've got the S is the most iconic features of Suzuka, and well, we're going to get to do it more often than if we were using the full layout. It's going to be absolutely frenetic, chaotic. All of the words that you can try and muster to describe this race is really what it's going to be. Panera at the moment, the fastest man in qualifying, not unsurprising. The thing I think mostly about today and what the drivers are really going to struggle with, Austin, is just the relentlessness. There is no real big opportunity to take a break, to have a breather. You've got the start-finish straight, but as you look on your screen at the moment, you'll see that actually you're mostly going to be racing somebody side by side. So it's going to be super mentally draining, and really watch for that as we certainly get into the latter stages of the race.
It really is. This is going to be the most laps we've ever had in a Weekend Warriors race. Lap times around here, 55 seconds currently with Marco Panero. Last week's winner starting, currently sitting on provisional pole, but look down the field, first to 25th, 55 seconds, all of them, 55. It's about 7/10 separating 25 cars right now, and I feel like that gap is going to get even tighter because this track, it's very small, not a lot of room to make those mistakes, and it's a very iconic part of the track. Everybody knows how to get around here, but who knows it the best and who's going to be consistently the best, because that long straightaway heading into turn one, that is going to be your biggest moment for a overtake. Drafting is going to be very important here, and then following the other car, trying to force them into a mistake, trying to find a little bit of gap, because these S's, you don't see a lot of overtakes happening in them, so we might see a little bit of side-by-side action, and then after the Dunlop corner, and then into that right-hander as we head back onto the main circuit where it just kind of cuts through, where it's not the corner that Latifi got lost on, but it's in that same section, where that right-hander, that could also be a moment, but it's very, very tight. If you're on the outside of Dunlop corner, you can set yourself up for the inside and might go for another move, but biggest spots to look out for, turn 1 and the S's, which is pretty much the entire track.
It pretty much is. You were mentioning that, but down to at least 25th place, they're all settled within the 55-second mark. In fact, you have to go down to 28th place, Gary Volbolt, to find the first driver outside the 55-second lap time. And we have, astonishingly, 34 cars within a second of the pole time currently. Last driver to be in that 1 second window is Alan McCain. Philip Berry ever so slightly outside of that window. We've got 37 drivers out on the track at the moment, or trying to qualify. 3 drivers in the pits as well, so we could have up to 40 cars on this layout. I didn't really think that we could fit 40 spec racer 4s Austin around the circuit, but we somehow are managing to do that at the moment.
Well, if you want something
though for the start.
If you want another fun fact, they did fit 40 touring cars back in the WTCR days. They raced on this layout, and that race was as chaotic as you think. Put touring cars on this type of circuit, and well, you got a show for an entire hour. I can guarantee that, and it was fun. And that race is also available up on YouTube. So after you're done with this, look at the some old WTCR footage online and enjoy that little gem of a race. But yeah, 40 cars on this layout. You can get as maximum of 60 as well, which is just mind-boggling because it's a Suzuka F1 pit lane, so it's a big pit lane, but it's such a small circuit that you don't think it's possible, but it is possible. You just question yourself, should we do this? The answer is always yes, by the way, because it's always fun, and I'm pretty sure that Jonathan, you and I are all going to have a little bit of a panic moment because there's going to be so much stuff happening on screen and so much stuff happening out there on the track that there's going to be battles up and down the circuit, and we might get to the point where every part of the track is covered, as this is a little bit of a oopsie by Flavio Andalo coming out of that final corner.
Yeah, Andalo getting that tricky final corner all wrong. Of course, you might have driven, hundreds or even thousands of laps around the Suzuka circuit, but that sort of shortcut that you take as you exit out of the S's to head back onto the start-finish straight, drivers very rarely would have actually driven it. It's not necessarily a very well-used layout, so you might be really familiar with most of the circuit, but that final corner will bite if you're not careful. So we're certainly seeing that happen at the moment, although I think Andalo has got enough time to go for a few more laps. Actually, he's got enough time for 5 laps, so he should be able to improve his position on the grid. Megan Overstreet heading in to turn 1. Lots of oversteer.
Big slide on the entry. I believe Overstreet, she hit the entry heading into turn 1, into turn 2, and the car just immediately started to turn, but she caught it and she's kept on going. But that was a big moment right there for Overstreet.
Certainly was. We're going to see a lot more of that happening in today's race. Turn 1 is really, really tricky. Certainly in a car that's, well, even in a car that's got a lot of downforce, but when you don't, it's so difficult. That's Jonathan Gaston there. I think he set a lap time.
That was his only lap that he just set.
And then he's just applied the brakes fairly firmly to come to a little bit of a stop on the inside of the circuit. Quite sure what's going on for the 77 Masters car at the moment.
I feel like he just wanted to set a banker lap and then just get out of there. Try to pull a Michele back in the... Ooh, crash! I had to transfer and in parked in the pit lane. Was that Jason Perry? It was Jason Perry. And I believe there might have been a little bit of a grass contact, or he just tried to go into the pit lane and he wasn't expecting it to be the first pit lane, because there are 2 pit lane entrances here. You got the regular F1 entrance for the Grand Prix circuit, but there's a much tighter entrance that starts on that corner, and most drivers are caught out by there, and it's going to be very tricky for a lot of these drivers to get used to that secondary entrance, because they will have to be doing that pit stop, and I can guarantee you somebody's going to be using the wrong pit entrance, and they might end up with a cone underneath their car because the F1 pit entrance is coned off.
Not only will they end up with a cone underneath the car that can wreak all sorts of havoc, but they will get an unsafe entry penalty as well. you know, is today the day where any of our drivers that can really master their fuel usage, is today the day that they want to try and extend without, or extend their stint, I should say, without having to come into the pits to try and go all 40 minutes on one tank, just to avoid the carnage of the pit entrance? I'm not sure it's necessarily possible, but then we've said that time and time before, and a driver always tries to prove us wrong. Riding on board with Carlos Barreto. Sorry, Austin, take it away.
Well, I think we both just want to say, as Carlos Barreto goes wide in a turn one, we might see a few drivers do this on the opening lap to avoid any incident. But if we could stay on board one of these drivers, but I believe, yep, there we go, back regular. If we could stay on board of Carlos, we could point out that pit entry on the right. But here's the S's, here's everything going on. 2 minutes left in qualifying, and here's is Dunlop corner. Now, when you're heading into the pits, this is going to be so sudden. There's that entry, and then if you look right, that dotted line, that is pit entry. There's the F1 entry. It's a much tighter line. Somebody's already hit that inside cone and pushed it out into the grass, but that is a very awkward pit lane, and you know how I rank my awkward pit lanes? This one on this layout is pretty awkward. It's very sudden, and if you're pitting and you're in a group, pray that everybody else knows that you're pitting, or else it might end up with you getting tapped.
Yeah, really, really tricky. Sort of has sort of hallmarks of the Red Bull ring and that really tricky pit entrance. I think it's even a little bit more dangerous.
I think Red Bull ring ranks higher on bad pit lanes than Suzuka East. But it's up there.
I think only time will tell. Just interesting to see all this racing going on. Todd Hansen trying to make his way past 2 cars into the braking zone of turn 1, getting a little bit of racing practice in. This is their final lap in qualifying, so every meter really counts, but Hansen's final lap not getting off particularly well, having to avoid quite a few drivers on his final attempt at qualifying.
He's got the 929 right behind him. Todd Hansen's at the front, and that's Adam Bradshaw right behind him. They're behind each other on the standings and behind each other exactly out on track. So, and I think Bradshaw is setting himself up for a good run onto the straight to try to top that. But look behind him at the 917 out there on track, as that's a very risky moment. Got out there onto the grass and got loose, and neither of them, none of the 3, I think they all saw that and just said we're backing out of it. The 922 joins this pack. 5 seconds remain in qualifying. But this is going to be our qualifying order right now, with some finishers heading on. Checker flags wave into the air. Some finishers out there. Jeff Jacobson has a little bit of improvement in the first sector, but does not improve as they go into the pit entry, as all of our drivers are going to be parking next to our checkered flag and going into the pit lane. Do a little few finger stretches, do a little bit of arm stretches if they have a direct drive wheel. We all know on how physical they can get.
Oh, it certainly can, especially around the circuit like Suzuka East. If you have got your force feedback set just a little bit too high, you're really going to feel it. Certainly after 20 minutes of qualifying, certainly after 40 minutes of racing.
At least this is not IndyCar, because no power steering. No, I believe Spec Racer 4 also does not have power steering. So we're going to have a few weightlifters after this race.
Certainly are. Jorg Miney really struggling to get into the pit lane. Everybody, interestingly enough, Austin, really wanting to maximize the amount of times they enter the pit lane when not in racing conditions. So everybody, instead of just sort of escaping back to the pits while they're out on track after they've finished their final qualifying attempt, they want to come into the pits. They want to get a feel for get that practice. And we see Dantas taking the wrong way.
Proving our point right there is so sudden, and it's so easy to make that mistake. You don't have a wall to remind you, hey, there's grass here. It's just happened because the track falls away. But our grid is up. It is qualified, and we do not have Horiamani on pole. He'll be starting on 3rd, but it's Panero, last week's winner, who will be starting up on pole position, followed by Carlos Barreto and Horiamani in 3rd, followed by Jason Green, Alice Pleva, and Kurt Nuens, Tom Gradwell, Ivardro Dantas, Paolo Gori, Flavio Andalo, Bobby West, and Jesus Rodriguez in 12th They're followed by Steven Elson, Antonio Rees, Todd Hansen, Adam Bradshaw, Chris Murakami, Jason Perry, Marcus Burkett, Kuzma Lasani, and Megan Overstreet, followed by Ian Gibson, Ken Bately, Bob Kern in 24th. And then it's Andrea Favini, Michael Nelson, Jeff Cantor, Chris Montgomery, Joshua Justice, Gary Woodbolt, Paul Jackson, Alan McCain, Jeff Jacobson, Stephen Mitchell, Stevie Ray, and Philip Berry in 36th place. And in our final spots, it is Mark Sherman, Jonathan Mito, Michelle Vagellini in 39th in the Michelle Show, Samuel Dick, and Hosea Douglas in our 41st spot. Samuel and Hosea did not set a lap time at the end of our grid, but Michelle, this is going to be a big Michelle race. Michele race in 39th, because we always know routinely starts at the back of the grid, always has fun moving up through the grid. He got up to 21st, I believe, in Road America. Then we had a big incident that they were involved in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But Saintscar is out there on the track. We are just waiting for a few more drivers to grid up, get ready to go. But everybody, I think, is ecstatic for this. Two cars are not taking the start. That is Pololo and Nelson and Douglas, as those three will be starting for the pit lane. But we are rolling here at Suzuka.
So everybody getting away fairly cautiously from the line. They don't want to be wearing out their tyres any more than necessary. It's going to be a management race today. You've got to manage your off tracks, you've got to manage your tyres, you've got to manage your fuel, and then when it comes to the pit lane, you've got to manage your speed there as well. It's going to be so difficult in today's race. 38 cars then starting this race. Hosea Douglas, Paolo Gori, and Michael Jean Nelson not taking to the start, or not taking to the rolling start. They might choose to just come out of the pit, start from the pit lane, and really take the easy way out, but it could really pay dividends for them. Austin, we've been in the commentary booth together, in fact, this weekend, and we've seen a huge start line incident, and you know, maybe starting from the pits around here isn't such a bad idea, but Marco Pinheiro on pole doesn't have to worry about any of that. He's going to have a clear run ahead of him, and he'll be looking good to try and get another race win.
He certainly will, and it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be a giant challenge here at Suzuka. Also, thank you for all support from RaceVoice as they power all the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors races here on Apex Racing TV. There is Stevie Ray in that beautiful gray esports car with that beautiful RaceVoice logo on the front of his car as well. So let's run on board the roll bar in this packed field here at Suzuka. You can see everyone's just crawling right now, but the pace car is in, and it's time to get ready to rock and roll as we are green here at Suzuka.
Good start. The second and third, Barreto and Marnie almost making contact before the race had even gotten started. Marco Pinheiro, a great start, but watch as they come down towards turn one, Austin. When they apply the brakes, this is gonna get very spicy.
One car already off, a little bit of a lockup, but they're just holding outside that outside line. Contact in the background. That's Todd Hansen and Fabio Adalo going down the field as they fall down, but Jorge Mani jumps up into second place after Carlos Barreto goes out wide, but chaos happening in the background here at Suzuka.
McCain almost falls to the outside of the circuit. Did well to keep it on the track. Alan McCain, he's had such a good season so far, in contention for the Spec 2 championship, but that would have been a heart-in-mouth moment. Jorg Mani, though, has had an absolutely supremely good start. He managed to see off that fight from Carlos Barreto, in fact, make his way past Carlos for second. Now trying to get past Marco Pinheiro as they head down towards turn one.
Mani has got a good run. He's looking down to the inside. This is a move for the lead. We're going side by side for the lead. Mani is going into the lead here at turn one and starting lap number 2 of this 40-minute race. And it is already jam-packed awesome right now. Pinheiro under pressure by Barreto. Barreto trying to pull back that second spot where he started, but Mani is leading the pack through the S's.
But look at the what happened at the start. This is what happened to Todd Hansen. Sends it to the inside, heading in to turn one. Is he just going to make it with Dalo? Yes, he is. Secondary contact as well. And does Andalo make contact with the wall? Yes, he does. That will be a little bit of an issue for him. He might have to come into the pits and try and take a faster. That's what happened, as you just saw, as we ticked away from the replay. What happened to Alan McCain?
Oh! This is live pictures of Joshua Justice side by side at the transfer over and was just tapped on the inside, and he ended up in the gravel. But he's continue on and going right now, but he is down there in 38th place, back live of Bobby West. We just saw Tom Gradwell in the back just got pushed out wide just a little bit, but this is Bobby sitting in 8th. He's currently up 3 spots right now. He's chasing down Kurt Newens and under pressure by Jesus Rodriguez right behind him.
The Masters really showing their talent at the moment. One leading, one in 7th place, and then Gradwell, Bradshaw, Risa Murakami just outside of the top 10. Steve Alston, we know how quick he can be. Burkett getting overtaken by Perry. Action up and down the field. Austin, just a quick update. Gene Nelson, Hosea Douglas and Paolo Gori did not take to the start, so we have 38 cars in the race, although only 37 on the track. As Todd Hansen has come into the pits. I wonder if the damage sustained in that opening lap incident was too much to continue, and he's had to come in at least to get that damage repaired.
He is, and he's back out there on track right now, so he did get that damage repaired and also fueled up as well. And your prediction of if it is possible for somebody to go the entire race without pitting, I think it kind of is, because the S's are going to be pretty easy on your gas tank, and on your right foot it's going to be a lot of rhythmic driving, and especially if you're waiting behind a lot of cars, I think it is possible. We've seen it done in Long Beach in the GT3s with our own fellow Apex Racing team driver Jamie Fluke doing it in the McLaren, and it looks possible here as well, especially on this layout. Monty under pressure. Here comes Pinero. Pinero wants the lead back. We saw these two in a fight for the lead all last week as they're continuing this battle. Pinero takes the lead heading into turn 1.
Yogmani didn't really feel the need to fight too hard, knows that the race isn't really going to be won and lost at this phase of the race. It's all going to be about what happens in 36 minutes time. This battle getting fairly frenetic. Nunez, Rodriguez, West and Elson all very close for comfort as they make their way through the S's. We're already 5 laps into this race, Austin. Laps are going to go by so quickly. And spare a thought for any of our drivers out there who are racing in virtual reality or VR. They're going to start to feel sick, I hazard a guess, by the end of this race. Steve Elson trying to make a move as they head into the transfer. Not an overtaking opportunity normally, but Elson starting to look a little bit impatient, trying to find his way past Bobby West and up into 9th place.
The transfer is very sudden on this track. It pretty much takes away from the natural flow that you get on the track. So it kind of shows itself as an overtaking opportunity, but it's not really one. The best overtaking opportunity right here, as we just saw Jesus dive it up onto the inside of Kurt and take 7th place. Get into that draft to side-by-side, also behind just a little bit, Bobby West and Steven Elson, but hello, Kurt and Jesus still going at it again, but Jesus holding that inside line with Kurt right behind him, unable, but watch out, Kurt, you got Bobby right behind you, and Bobby, he wants to have a little bit of a fight as well. That's right on board of Bobby West in 9th place as he looks for 8th, setting himself up into Dunlop corner. Here comes that transfer corner. You see it's a braking zone. It's very tight though, but if you get alongside him on that entry, you go for that move as he's in that draft right now. The 918 of Kurt Newens ahead of him. He's going to be getting the best opportunity for that move. Defending onto the inside goes Jesus Rodriguez down low. There's a little bit of a brake tapping because he didn't want to make contact. Here comes Bobby West around the outside. Is Bobby going to try to send it around the outside? And Kurt, he's about to fall to Steven Ellison, but no, it doesn't happen. I think Bobby wasn't expecting all that closing speed, and then he was just boxed in right there. That's why he got onto the brakes.
Yeah, really peculiar. You don't tend to see drivers actually go onto the brakes. You just lift the throttle. Certainly if you're trying to save as much fuel as possible, where most of these spec Race 4 drivers try to save fuel wherever possible. Steve Elson getting really impatient at the moment. It's now got Kurt Nunez up ahead of him. Nunez getting a little bit of drift from Bobby West. Might be a little bit more vulnerable down the straight, but in the background, Adam Bradshaw, don't count him out at all. Looking very quick and trying to find his way past Steven Elson. This race is going to be so frenetic, Austin.
Another move for the lead. Monty takes that back, but Elson had a big slide heading onto that front straightaway. It looked like he was out of contention right there, but here's a big set into the braking zone. That's Adam Bradshaw getting right onto the bumper and pretty much almost signing his name right on the back of that 56 right there. But Bradshaw and Elson, they're right at the tail end of that fight, and here is the head of that fight being led by the Red Lobster himself, Monty, ahead of Pinero.
But York Mani wanted the lead back, managed to get it. I think these two, Pinero and Mani, will be working together at this phase. There's no point in fighting. There's no point in costing yourself more time than whatever's necessary, really. This is how the move was made. Simply going to be slipstream, send it to the inside, heading in turn one.
Yeah, just all the slipstream sets itself up around the outside. It was defended well to the inside, but that drive that you just get is just slingshot city right there. We go back live. Kurt Nunez has had an issue, and he's falling down the field. He went from 9th place all the way down to 20th place. He's down 14 spots from where he started, and I believe has had an issue off the track, and that might be out of the final corner. We've also had an issue with Stevie Ray, Fabio Andalo, and Mark Sherman have had an issue as well.
Yeah, drivers starting to struggle 9 laps into this race. Tyres getting a little bit hot. Tempers starting to flare. Not surprised that we're seeing a few drivers falling foul of the track limits. I wonder if there's a little bit of contact between Kurt Nunez and Steve Elton. Of course, they were really, really close for comfort when we went to those replay pictures. But Nunez, currently in 20th place, looks to be recovering well, looks to have found his rhythm once again. Next up for him is Andrea Favini. Favini has a look down the inside again, badly.
As we had the replay, what happened to Kurt coming up right here. This is at that transfer. Gets a little bit wide, but look at that 56. That's Steven Elson chasing down. He got into the grass off the exit and bam, into the wall. And exactly as I said is going to happen. That final corner, you're just pushing it so hard, and you're just pushing it to the end, and if you get off the throttle, you are putting yourself up to the dogs behind you, and if you get it wrong, that's exactly what happens. That is wall contact for Kurt, and that puts him down into 20th right there. And I'm going to be honest, it's not the first time we're going to see that today.
Barretto starting to get a little bit of a... Oh, McCain's off the circuit.
And right on the apex of the corner of the pit lane, he's going to have to watch out because this is a tight track. He's going to have to go. He's going to have to do a 3-point turn, maybe an 8-point turn right now. You got to watch out. He's going to almost get damaged right there. He flick spins it on the pit entry, and I think he's going to give himself a drive-through on purpose to get back there on the track in the safe way.
I think he's actually going to come in and take his fuel stop.
Well, yeah, you definitely want to do that, but you definitely wanted to go do that, but the benefit of unfortunately crashing right there, but that was so risky, and I think that also caused a separate issue because McCain has had an issue, and I think we're going to be seeing McCain pass the nose.
So this is what happened to Alan McCain. So this is how he ended up. Too much speed into the corner,
mustard.
And then.
Yeah.
Sorry, Austin. What he's going to do is I think he's decided that I think he ended up with a little bit of damage after reversing into the wall, so he's going to come into the pits, take his fast repair. He should be able to get to the end of the race at this point if he's filled up with fuel. So McCain...
There's the wall contact.
There's the wall contact. So McCain should be able to get to the end, of course, not ideal and not the most elegant of pit entrances that we've seen so far today.
And not the first unelegant pit entry. There's going to be a lot more, but here's your current leader leading the overall race and the Masters race. It is Borgmani up at P1. They're followed by Pinero, and leading S2, it's Lasani down in 16th.
Lesnoy. Sorry, Austin. I was just going to say, Lesnoy started to get close to the back of Jason Perry. And, you know, with the new rules for this season, Kuzma Lesnoy, he can get a lot more points if he starts to race, even if it is a Spec 1 car ahead of him. But there's a lot of risk involved, so a lot of calculations having to be thought about out from the cockpit while trying to traverse this really tricky circuit.
And Bobby West fell down to 10th place as we are riding on board Kuzma behind Megan Overstreet and Jason Perez. They went side by side heading into turn 1, and it looked like Kuzma wanted to join the fight, but he's backed out of it right there. Currently sitting in 16th and joining themselves right now. And this is a big train. Adam Bradshaw, Jesus Rodriguez, Bobby West, everybody in this train. We have been watching this fight, but the current head of this train, Steven Elson, it goes from 7th place all the way to at least 13th and then some more. And honestly, if you can count all these cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 cars involved in this fight. Megan Overstreet at the back, but Jason Perry, the tail end, and Lesnoy technically at the end. And Lesnoy is going to go for a move on Megan Overstreet right here. Side by side they go, heading into turn 1. Lesnoy looking for the move, just holding that inside line is very tight. We got a spinner right in front of him. Big avoidance right there as that's Adam Bradshaw spun around.
Wonder if that was contact induced or a little bit too much speed in the apex of turn 1. Great avoidance though by everybody behind. I don't think anybody made contact with the stricken Adam Bradshaw. Bradshaw already making his way past Jeff Cantor, so recovering well up 21st already. Austin, I think we're going to see a replay of exactly what happened to Adam Bradshaw heading into turn 1.
There's Bradshaw. He's looking to make a move heading into turn 1, but I think he's already made up his mind. But is there no, there is not contact. He got onto the brakes middle of the corner, and I think that just overloaded the car, overstressed it, and made himself spin right there. It's very hard. It's very hard to get onto the brakes in that corner without having that happen, as we have more cars headed into the pit lane. But we are back live here at Suzuka and looking at this train. And here is our race leader, Marco Panero. And we're already starting to lap a few cars right ahead of him. But Panero, it's got Monty and Beretta right behind him. And Pleva, Alice Pleva in there as well with Jason Green and Eduardo Dantes. Our top 6 pulled away from the rest of the pack by a pretty big margin. But let's ride on board Barreto as we head through that final corner. And this is going to be overtaking for the lead pretty hard, because Panero is going to be getting dragged from the cars ahead of him as well.
Something's happened to Jesus Rodriguez. He's currently falling down the timing stand like a rock in water. Wonder what's happened to him. Oh, lap car gets out of the way through turn 1. That's Flavio and Darlo trying to be as nice as possible to get out of the way, but really not really hampering the drivers, I should say, Austin.
Yeah, here's what happened to Rodriguez, and it's in the transfer again, and just catching the grass on the outside. A big slide. Oh, this is going to be tight. Back it up, back it up, back it up. Get it out of there, get it out of there, get it out of there. And then pray, because that was very sketchy right on the racing line, and everybody thankfully on the apex right there, because if they were just off it just by a little bit, that would have been contact right there. But a big slide and a very big moment. Jason Green has just set the fastest lap of the race, as Jason Green and I believe that is Burkett having an issue, as another driver almost catches the grass again. And I believe we're going to be getting a replay very soon. But Marcus Burkett also involved in there. And here is that well-timed replay right now. This is what happened to Burkett, who is just on his own. I feel like has caught another car. Yep, there's a spin right ahead of him in the transfer, and boom!
That was Jason Perry going for a spin. Very unlucky for Marcus Burkett. He'll be just about able to get that car to pit lane. Yes, he will, so he'll be able to get a fast repair.
The front end of Burkett's car just got absolutely wrecked and destroyed. And here's what happened. The initial spin by Jason Perry in a fight behind the 909. And this is the transfer, and I think, he's going for the move, and that is a very daring dive down low, and bam! Well, it's the 1-2 punch right there. He's towed himself into the pit lane now, but that is a very unfortunate moment, as we have, I believe this is our first on-purpose pit stop. Kuzma Lesnoy hops into the pit lane, and I don't believe there's any incident right there. And there's Kuzma on the right, and an absolute destroyed car of Burkett on the left. As, this is on purpose.
Yeah, so a little bit of an early stop. Fairly smart decision from where we're sitting in the commentary booth. Just get the pit stop done early before there's a big rush in that really tricky pit entrance. Murakami doesn't decide to head into the pits this time around, so Lesnoy certainly the earliest driver to come into the pits. We'll have to see how his pace develops over the rest of this race. Tell you what, just
to the pits.
Gibson, so another driver coming in. I just very quickly want to talk about Jason Perry and that spin. He did everything right. He held his brakes. Just unfortunate that he came together with Marcus Burkett. Very, very unfortunate. Surprised, in fact, Austin, that we haven't seen more of that so far in today's race. Jörg Meine, though, making the move and up into the race lead once again.
We still got 20 minutes left and anything is left on the table, but these early pit stops, like you said, is a little bit smart. Avoid the rush before that, and we've been seeing incidents happening in this spot. And the main place where cars having an incident go is going into the pit lane. And if you're looking to go into the pits and there's a car spinning right there, that's going to be either an unsafe pit entry or that's another lap where you have to charge out on fuel. But exiting the pits, we just saw a car exiting the pits right there, is also very sketchy because you're just rejoining the track in front, well, in the middle or in front or even behind a massive train charging at full speed. So we're looking at Barreto chasing down Pinero and Monty, our top six right now, as we continue on in the S's. As our top six, nothing's really changing with them right now. Barreto's still staying in there, looking for the lead in S1 Spec 1. So we head over to the transfer. Pinero takes a much tighter line on the entry, and if you're a Monty, you might want to have to look out for that, because in the closing laps, Pinero might try that final corner move just by diving it up onto the inside, because he's been doing that constantly.
He has a little bit of practice. I tell you what, though, Barreto is one to watch in this race. He's been really content in just staying in third, just lifting wherever he needs to. Doesn't look to be challenging Pinero so much at the moment. Really seems that he's just driving to a fuel number. Reese gets past Murakami. Those two not so concerned about fuel saving, all about getting track position. I think Barreto, if any of the top three, would be looking to try and make it without coming into the pit stops. My money would be on Carlos Barreto. This battle, though, looks very, very good, Austin.
Yeah, battle is looking very, very tasty. Chris Murakami and Antonio Rees ahead of him, the 914, the 901. He's also got Bobby West and Tom Bradwell in there as well in the battle for 8th as they head through the transfer spot. There looks to be a little bit of damage on Bobby West's car. If you look at the front right, I think there might have been a contact with a little bit of an issue. You can see the scraping right there, but it's more visible from outside the car than the inside the car yet. And there is Bobby West. Well, he actually pulls out of the draft right there, sends it up onto the inside. That looks pretty organized right there. Chris Murakami knew that he was going slow, and Bobby sends it up there and up into 9th.
Bobby West with a whole host of speed, even with that damage to the front end of his car. I wonder if Chris Murakami there was just a little bit of lift and coach, just trying to save a little bit of fuel, because he didn't really hold the issue too much to try and hold up Bobby West. It'll be interesting to see how much fuel saving is Antonio Rees doing at the moment, currently in 8th place, and can Bobby West make his way past Rees as easily as he did to Murakami one lap ago. Just having a little bit of a look at how the gaps are developing. Jörg Meine, almost, I think we'll be hoping that Marco Pinero can make his way past him. Jörg Meine's been leading the majority of these laps, pushing the air out for everybody behind, creating that slipstream, and crucially, Austin burning a little bit more fuel than the cars behind him.
He is indeed, and everybody behind him, I think, is taking that into account. They might be lifting and coasting. We've seen Barreto just not really challenging for any moves. We are halfway into this race, and that's when we usually start seeing the rush of cars heading into the pits. But only half of the cars have gone, well, actually, no, less than half of the cars. We still have had 27 cars not head into the pits right now, and I feel like some of these drivers are going to go the entire race distance without daring to go into the pit lane. It's just how much lifting and coasting are you going our first driver who has gone to the pits is Kuzma Lesnoy, so I think most of our drivers are going to try to go the race distance without pitting, or it's just a cat and mouse game, and they're just going to pit where everyone else is going to pit, because this is going to be a nail-biter close finish, and I feel like most of the drivers are going to be flirting with disaster when the timer hits 40 minutes.
Yeah, certainly so. I think flirting with disaster is almost the subtitle of this race. You've got, you know, the track that's so difficult to begin with, tricky off tracks, tricky pit entrance as well. Really, really difficult race for our drivers today. They've survived 22 minutes, got 18 to go. Tom Gradwell was right on board with him up the hill towards the final double right-hander. Does anybody decide to head into the pits? Thought Antonio Reese was deciding to come into the pits, but decides against it, I think, at the last moment. And now it's almost sort of, surely, Austin, you want to be early. You want to try and get into the pits when everybody else isn't really thinking of pitting, like Kuzma Lesnoy. I think there's a little bit of contact, though, heading down the back straight.
Yeah, there was a little bit of contact and a bit of a lockup as well by Tom Gradwell at the back right there. But yeah, I think there might have been a little bit of contact. I think drivers are starting to bump draft. I don't believe it's allowed, but which explains some drivers getting onto the brakes right there. But yeah, there might have been a little bit of contact, and I wouldn't be surprised by it. But Monty, he has stated multiple times that he doesn't believe in fuel saving, so this entire front pack is going at the speed of sound, and I think the later you are in this group, the higher chance you have of making it to the end, but they are pushing it right now. And Monty, once again, leads another lap, and then the entire group right behind him says, if you want to be the head of the charge, you go for it. We're just going to stay back here and just wait for a moment and wait till you run out of fuel. As we tick down the minutes here at Suzuka, we're closing in on 16 minutes remaining here for the SRF Weekend Warriors here at Suzuka East, presented by RaceVoice. Go fast, the speed of voice at RaceVoice, www.racevoice.com.
On board with Alice Pelver, trying to find his way past Barretto. None of the top four decide to head into the pit lane. Surely we are starting to get into that pit window. Yorkmani pulls to the inside. Does he let Pinero go, or is that a little bit of a defensive line? Yorkmani really extremely defending.
He knows they're fuel saving. He knows they're fuel saving. He's diving down to the inside, breaking off that draft. Everybody is behind him. He goes down to the inside, cause chaos behind him. He's going to be forcing everybody to get onto that throttle because he knows that they're lifting.
Yeah, really, really good tactics from Yorkmani. Pinero and Barretto didn't feel the need to follow him. They don't want to scrub off any more speed than they necessarily have to. Barretto just looks to now to be starting to attack Marco Pinero. I think they might have gone side by side a few laps ago, or at least that's sort of what it looked like from our timing stands. Did anybody decide to head into the pits on this occasion? No. In the background, though, Dantas trying to get past Green. That could be a little bit of a spicy battle heading into turn one.
Everybody going down to the inside. They're now aware of Monty's tactics. And here we go, the move for second. Barretto and Pinero fighting it off. And I think this is going to start a little bit of action. Elson from 7th place is headed to the pit lane.
Smart decision by Steven Elson. Gets the pit stop out of the way. Doesn't have to deal with many cars coming into the pits at once. Be interesting to see where he comes out, a la Kuzma Lesnoy, currently in 24th place.
Yeah, he was ahead of him by about 7 car lengths. Lesnoy was down in 15th when they went into the pits, but Elson was all on their own. They're coming back out on the track just in 22nd, 23rd place, right ahead of Lesnoy by about 8 seconds.
So that's sort of proven that Lesnoy's pace hasn't been too bad with a higher fuel load, but hasn't necessarily been so great that he's been able to make much of an impact into that pack that he was ahead before he came into the pits. So it's almost doesn't really tell us too much. Pinero, though, getting past Yorkmani. Does Mani now start to think that he needs to do a little bit of fuel saving, or is Marco Pinero throwing that strategy firmly out of the window and is going full pelt?
Murakami looking down to the inside, gets onto the brakes a little bit earlier than Bobby West. West, though, was on the outside and not going to be able to defend that spot. Murakami back in a second. But yeah, we have a new leader. It is Marco Pinero retaking the lead for the first time in a few laps. And I feel like all these drivers have it at the back of their head that they can go into the pit lane, but they're just waiting towards everybody else because they think that they can go as long as they can. And here's that move for the lead of the race. There's no fuel saving here whatsoever. Just full pedal to the metal down towards the inside, easy as pie. Bob's your uncle. Keep it going. Pinero in the lead.
This really reminds me of a Formula E race. Drivers are having to save extra fuel to be able to allow themselves to not have to lift and coast, to try and make an overtake. It's so strategic. 27 minutes of this race gone so far. And now it'll be interesting to see, does Carlos Barreto feel the need to try and force his way past York Miney, to try and do what Marco Pinero did and not fuel save heading into turn one? Or does he just like the fact that he's in third, still has a double slipstream from the two cars ahead of him, just can watch this battle unfold? Really so fascinating, this race. Does Pinero look like he's coming into the pits? Yes, it does.
He is heading into the pit lane right now. Pinero, the only car in that leading pack heading into the pit lane, and the one that we thought that was going to be fuel saving the most, well, that actually might be Barreto, but Pinero, our first lead pack car, and I feel like this is opening up the floodgates. Here comes Barreto. Barreto wasn't making moves at all, but this is the first move he's making all race, and it's for the lead. Your new leader from Brazil, Carlos Barreto.
The third leader in this race. It'll be interesting to see if he's really playing the Marco Pinero strategy, sort of scrapple fuel saving when you know that you've got enough to make it to the end of the lap, and just sort of don't bother about the fuel saving. Is he going to come into the pits? I wonder. York Miney is out on the circuit. He's going to come out in traffic. He's behind Cantor. He's
side by side.
Rodriguez. That is so crucial in today's race.
So crucial indeed, but he's on the inside. He regains that spot side by side of the driver. Monty heads into the pits now, so it is now the pit lane show here at Suzuka. The leader pack they now realize they can't go into the pit lane now, and I think we're about to see some chaos in the pit lane, and I am all for it. Barreto, Pleva, Green, and Dantes, our top four, all have not gone into the pit lane. Who is next here in Suzuka? Or are they all going to try to go in a pack? And if so, are there going to be any incidents waiting in the pit lane? More drivers heading into the pit lane. That's Ken Bately and Jonathan Gaston heading into the pits right now as we're looking at Marco Pinero. He's on the front straightaway. There is Monty. Monty exiting the pit lane, but he is so slow. Pinero takes the net lead, and there's a crash entity at the turn one. Rodriguez, I think he caught somebody else right there. Jeff Cantor and Rodriguez having contact with each other, and into the wall flies Cantor in a massive crash at turn one. And here is Pinero. There's Pinero on the inside getting a big push by the 76, and there's a little bit of leeway. They go three wide, and boom. Oh, that is Cantor into the wall, and he cannot believe it.
Yeah, I saw that Jesus Rodriguez was off the circuit. He just didn't make the corner after making a contact with Cantor. Cantor, oh, so unlucky. Really, the innocent bystander was all on Jesus Rodriguez, I think you would have to admit. Barreto, this is not working out for him at the moment. He's got the lap car of Ken Batley up ahead of him. Batley fresh into the pits. Oh, sideways from Barreto. Manages to save it, but he is on the limit. He is into the pit lane. Has this two-lap extension to his stint cost Barreto the race win today?
He's going to be out of speed when he exits the pits, but man, what a save heading into the pit lane. Side by side, sliding into that narrow pit lane, and this is your net race leader, Pinero. He's got Monty right there. If you want to build the gap, this is where you do it. Barreto is going to have a slow pit in, but how's his pit out going to be? We all got to know, but there is Pinero leading out Monty. Monty is in the draft. He's going to try to close that gap down, separate just by half a second. There is Barreto exiting the pits, but this is going to be like you're on the train station and the train is already passing you by. No can do. He's not going to be in the net race lead, and he's also going to fall away by another car as well. as they are separated by Jesus Rodriguez, who has not gone into the pits yet. Felipe Evaro Dantas heads into the pits now. Our two race leaders are still out there right now, but that opening pack is being separated, and here is Dantas heading into the pits, as well as a 319 into the pits of Bertoli, who has changed his name to Troll Me. Thank you for that. He got me in the earlier race, so he's going to have that fun. But you can see the pit times. They're going to 7 seconds, falling down to 7 seconds. There is Dantas exiting the pits. He only spent 7 seconds in there. He's the lowest, the quickest time stopped in the box right now. This is going to be a good showing for Dantas. There is Pinero heading into turn 1. And it is Evandro Dantas now in the net race lead, exiting the pit lane, but he's got Pinero right there, so he might have the advantage right now, but he's going to have to get the boxing gloves right now because it is going to be a bar room brawl fight here for the lead between these three, and we still got Pleva and Greenberg, Tommy, Antonio Gradwell, and Favini still yet to make their pit stops in front of these drivers. Are we going to be seeing somebody try to dare for 8 minutes? But there's Tom Gradwell ahead of him going into the pits right now. But this is going to be chaos. Here's a look at our live race leader, Pleva and Green right behind him, and Jason Green. He's always back there. He's always waiting. I think Green and Pleva, well, mainly Green, is going to go for the Hail Mary. He's going to try to go green all the way.
Well, we're going to have to find out. 7 minutes left to go in this race.
Pinero on Monty, and Dantas is on the outside, and Dantas falls back behind all of them. I think Dantas might have underfueled the car.
That's exactly what, the point that I was about to make, Austin. He managed to get a shorter stop, but that's a cost for just taking less fuel. So Pleva is in. So Green does go for at least another lap. His 36th lap on this tank of fuel. And I think Dantas has rolled the dice, and he's rolled it a little bit too much. At the moment, it looks like he won't have the pace, won't have the ability to save enough fuel and keep the track position. So that gamble hasn't worked for Dantas. Pinero Mani still in the battle for the lead. Where does Pelver come out in this battle as well? Really, really intriguing race. Also, Favini in fourth could play a little bit of a factor in this race. Currently getting close to Antonio Reis. Actually, it's a little bit of a lapped car. That's Joshua Justice. But what I'm trying to say, and the point I'm trying to make, Austin, is that there are cars ahead of our net race leader, Marco Pinero. If Green is going to the end, Pinero needs to try and clear these cars as quickly as possible.
Yes, it is a lapped car fest right here. We got lapped cars and blue flags, lapped cars not in blue flags, and lapped cars is being lapped cars right here. And it is traffic central here at Suzuka. What I said at the start of the race, where we're going to have lapped cars play a big part, the entire track is going to be covered by them. I think it is coming true right now. Justice ahead of Pinero. Favini into the pits right there, but our main idea of our race leader is Jason Green up ahead, who is spending a lot of time fuel saving, and he's going to try to go 6 more minutes and hopefully 5 more minutes just less. Here's Pinero looking on Joshua Justice as well as Monty, and it looks like Dantas right behind him is going for the move as well, as they are now just holding up that outside line, and Justice goes off the track right there, and there goes Jason Green. He can't do it. Green is into the pits. Murakami, is he going to follow suit?
Yeah, looking like it's just not enough places to get the fuel saving in. It's not going to be like the Barber Motorsport where we saw Yang Jilin managed to make it. Yeah, Murakami, Reis into the pits. Murakami will be your new race leader. Can he make it to the end? I wonder, judging by how tricky it looks out there, Austin. I'm going to say that Chris Murakami will at some point have to enter the pits just to get a little bit of fuel under his belt.
It really is, but there is Pinero and Monty leading out the race. They're passing everybody, and in the net race lead, there is Jason Green exiting the pits, and he's going to be exiting back where he came in about 6th place. And there, well, pretty much all is right in the world. Murakami, our lone race leader, with 4 minutes to go. Does he have the fuel left? Can he do it, or is it going to be Pinero versus Monty, Part 2 Electric Boogaloo here in Suzuka? We saw them battling throughout the entire race in a massive 4-car fight, to the end of the race, and Murakami is throwing the white flag up. He is going to surrender that lead and head into the pits right now. And now we're back to Pinero and Monty. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be a replay of last week at Road America where Pinero took the win and Monty finished in 3rd place? Is it going to be Monty's week, or is it going to be a surprise? Because they have pulled a big gap between Dantas and Monty now, as we are looking at Favini and versus Gradwell behind him, and they're all chasing to Lesnoy and Kuzma in the fight for the Masters lead. Lesnoy and Favini in the fight for the Spec 2 lead.
Oh, Kuzma Lesnoy pitted so early. It almost feels like a 20 or so laps ago. Just how quickly this track, or the track times are, the lap times are around here. Favini pitted a little bit later. Lesnoy would have had the marker. He would have known how his car has developed over the stint, but Favini will have a little bit less of an ability, or less of a need, I should say, to do a little bit of fuel saving. And this is the battle for the overall race lead. They've got a little bit of laps traffic. That's Samuel Dick, currently in 23rd place. Shout out to Samuel, up 17 places from where he started. A great showing so far for the 119 car. But this battle will go to the end. Biggest mover on the grid, certainly so.
Biggest mover is Jonathan Gaston in 16th, up 22 spots as they've just gone to the pit lane. Actually, no, they're still back on, and they're still going. I think they're having a little bit of connection issues, but Gaston in that 77 is up 22 spots. He's currently our biggest mover right now, but that is second in story only to Monty and Pinero. Our fight for the race lead, and we got less than 2 minutes to go here, and this is a fight that we definitely do not want to walk away from. We got lap cars giving draft to Pinero. Monty is going to be head down charging right now, as I believe we have 2 laps to go here at Suzuka.
2 laps to go. I concur with you, Austin. The issue that Yorgmani's got is that because of the lap traffic, Marco Pinero is benefiting from the slipstream lock up there in the background. Was that Barretto going a little bit deep? Yes, I think it was. That might allow Dantas, actually Dantas falling down the order. That underfueling really not working out for Eduardo Dantas. Carlo Barretto now back up into the podium places. Marnie needs a Hail Mary move. He needs to send it to the inside, because as it stands, Pinero has the ability to get a little bit of slipstream.
Is he going to look onto the inside right here? He's looking to try for it. The lap cars are being pretty annoying for Pinero. Pinero under pressure. Stevie Ray's on the outside. The white flag is flying in the air. Last lap action. Here we go. Monty versus Pinero right now with the lap cars giving him the draft. Pinero is going to be getting a big draft. There is Stevie Ray on the inside. He's going to be letting them by. There goes Stevie Ray. They got one car on the outside. Here comes Monty. Monty looking down to the inside, but it's too little too late right now. Is it going to be Monty? Is it going to be Pinero? We got the S's now. Pinero leading out Umani right behind the 16 versus the 925. Is it going to be 2 race wins in a row for Marco Pinero, or can Monty get the upset right here? Looking down the inside, it's not going to happen for him right there. It is closing down. Is it going to be a last chance opportunity at the switchback, at the transfer? I think Monty is going to set up for it with a last Hail Mary move, but it's too little, too late. Pinero going out a little bit wide, but there's a slide. Here comes Monty, but Monty is just unfortunately going to be there. And 2 weeks in a row, it is Marco Pinero taking the win.
Yorgmani will have to settle for second spot, but we still have that battle for the Spec 2 race lead. Kuzma Lesnoy just ahead of Andrea Favini. Favini is going to have to try and do the same thing that Yorgmani tried to do, send it to the inside heading in to the penultimate corner, but it will be Kuzma Lesnoy who rounds the final corner to take the Spec 2 race win. The driver, the first driver in fact to come into the pits. The strategy worked out a treat for him, and he will take the Spec 2 victory. Of course, Yorgmani the victor in the Masters class. But once again, Pinero and Marnie putting on an absolute breathtaking show. And the great news is, Austin, we've still got one more race this season where these two can provide another barnstorming race.
We certainly do. Next week is getting up and ready to go. And And actually, we have 2 races left to go, but one of them is the traditional Week 13 race that SRF does with the Formula V series as well. But more information that next week for the SRF Weekend Warriors Series. But here is our race winner, Marco Pinero, taking it once again here at Suzuka East, ahead of Monty right behind him, who takes the win in the Masters. And they're crashing in the traditional SRF fashion at the transfer. Before the pit lane, Carlos Barreto comes home in third, followed by Jason Green, Alice Pleva, Evandro Danta, Steven Ellison, Antonio Rees, Chris Murakami, Bobby West. Lesnoy takes the victory in Spec 2, followed by Favini, Tom Gradwell, Ken Bately, and Jesus Rodriguez, Jonathan Mino, and Flavio Andalo, followed by Ian Gibson in 18th place. Behind them is Chris Montgomery, Paul Jackson, Jeff Jacobson, Stevie Ray, Samuel Dick, Joshua Justice, Gary Woodball, Adam Bradshaw, Megan Overstreet, and Mark Sherman in 28th place. Behind them is Stephen Mitchell, Jeff Cantor, Alan McCain, Michele Bertoni, Troll, Philip Barry, Kurt Nuance, Bob Kern, Marcus Burkett, Jason Perry, Todd Hansen, Polo Gori, Mikel Nelson, and Hosea Douglas at the end of our 41 car grid. Goalie Nelson and Douglas did not take the start. What a day! What a day!
What a day indeed, Austin. It's been utterly enthralling once again. And I believe you've managed to find our second place finisher overall and our Masters winner, Jörg Barney, who I think is going to have a little bit of a chat to you, Austin.
Yes, we do. We're joined by Monty. Monty, once again, you're in the fight for the lead for most of the race. How was Suzuka East for you?
Fantastic race with Marco and with the other guys. It was really cool and very exciting. I'm soaking wet, so I have to take a shower after that. So yeah, but it was great. Fantastic.
We were talking about how this race is going to be a very physical one, mentally, physically, and a little bit of bump and run. And immediately off the line, he got a big bump from the side. But the talk throughout the night was fuel saving. You've talked against it throughout the time, and you were one of the first cars to head into the pit lane. Was that ever a question that can one car make it to the end of the pits, or was it just go as long as you can and then just try to brave that tricky pit entry?
Exactly that. And yeah, no, it's like I say, I'm not fuel saving. I had so much fun with racing with Marco and Carlos. Yeah, Carlos tried to squeeze me into the wall there at the start, but you know, I'm an old fart, so I know what to do against it, and I squeezed him a bit to the left, so I hold against it. That's why I could pass him on the start, and after that, it was just a fantastic race.
Well, when a young gun tries it, the master of defense tries it right back and is successful, taking second place here today. We stay in Japan for our finale of the Weekend Warriors series as we head to Okayama. No special course. It is the full race. How are you looking forward to Okayama?
To be perfectly honest, I don't like Okayama at all. I never liked it, not even in my Mazda MX-5 races. I really never liked it. Let's see how it goes. Maybe it goes good, maybe not. Let's see.
Well, it's going to be a home run for you, ending out the season there. Is it going to be good? Is it not? Hey, we're going to have to find out next week here on Apex Racing TV. But before we let you go and enjoy and cool down, take a shower, wipe the sweat off you, anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, first of all, Stevie, it's a fantastic job he does with that league, and I really can say it's the biggest and the best league on iRacing. RaceVoice, of course, for our sponsor, and hope they're going to stay with us for the next few years. Yeah, and you guys, of course, with broadcasting. I always enjoy listening afterwards, after I had my shower. I'm always listening YouTube again, Apex Racing. It's really a lot of fun.
Thank you, and thank you for always going back and upping the views as well, because I believe a lot of the drivers also do that. And congrats on a wonderful race, and we will see you next week as we head to Okayama. Sebastian, any closing thoughts?
And nothing more than my usual closing thoughts. Absolutely incredible race once again. Spec Racer Ford, Weekend Warrior never fails to deliver. Okayama, it's going to be a fairly similar challenge. It's fairly tight, it's fairly twisty, overtaking opportunities, maybe a little bit few and far between, but what an amazing place to end out the season.
It is one of my favorite tracks on iRacing. I know I'm in the very minority there, but it is so much fun. You got very long straightaways. The first opening corners are going to be very tricky, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We stay in Japan for the end of the season. Thank you all for joining us here on Apex Racing TV. And thank you to RaceVoice for always being the main sponsor of the SRF Weekend Warriors. Here from Suzuka on the East Circuit, I've been joined by Sebastian Bosher-Williams with Jonathan Grabowski in the production booth, and I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.